Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Would you come on in here with me and let's study our Bible. This week, we're doing the second half of Psalm 31. So if you have your Bible there, turn to Psalm 31, and today we're going to start with verse 13. Now, last week we said that this psalm was a prayer of David. Of course, he wrote it. It's also a prayer of the church. You read the psalm and you'll definitely see the church in here, but it's also a prayer of Christ because Christ marked this as his when he spoke the words of verse 5 on the cross. So we've seen several reflections of the cross. We've seen reflections of the life of Christ, and we're going to see more again starting today. So here in verses 13, 14, and 15 is where we'll read today. Let me go ahead and read those for us. For I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side, while they took counsel together against me. They devised to take away my life. But I trusted in thee, O Lord. I said, Thou art my God. My times are in thy hand. Deliver me from the hand of mine enemies and from them that persecute me. Okay, again, you see, just like last week, these reflections of Christ in this psalm. Last week, we saw on Friday last week, a reproach to all my neighbors, especially a reproach among all my enemies, especially among my neighbors, a fear of mine acquaintances. And we talked about how that was reflected in the life of Christ, and here we have it again. I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side, while they took counsel to devise, they devised to take away my life. So who's doing that? Well, if you go back in the Gospels, you'll see that in Luke, in Mark, in Matthew, and all these Gospels, the Jews, and when I say the Jews, not all the Jews, because of course not. There were those that were his disciples, but those in the ruling class, they absolutely lost their minds when Jesus was there. And when he says they took counsel together against me, if you look in the Synoptic Gospels, in Matthew 12 and Mark 3 and in Luke chapter 6, you'll see that they begin to plan his death. As a matter of fact, in Luke's Gospel, it says they went mad. They got so upset that Jesus would not follow their advice, that he would heal on a Sabbath day, that he wouldn't follow the traditions of the elders as they saw it, that they just lost their minds. That says they went mad. The King James has it that way. Here I'm going to read to you from Mark chapter 3. This is the first time in Mark they get upset. This is the story of the man in the synagogue who had the withered hand. And Jesus said, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? Nobody answered him. And you can just see him with folded arms there and sitting in the synagogue. And he told the man, stretch out your hand. And he did and was made whole. And then in verse 6, it says, and the Pharisees went forth and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. Yeah. So there it is. And it's reflected in all the Gospels that this was early. This counsel was early. They took counsel against me. They devised to take away my life. I think David's writing this specifically about Messiah. Verse 14, but I trusted in thee, O Lord. So just like in Psalm 22, when he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from the sound of my roaring? But you are holy, right? So here's another one of those instances. Here's the problem. It's bad. They take counsel against me. They are devising to take away my life. But I trust in thee. So God is greater than all the problem. God is greater than all the suffering. But I trusted in thee, O Lord. I said, thou art my God. So it doesn't matter. Whatever they do, they're going to do. But one thing I'm sure of, one thing that I confess, is you are my God. My times are in thy hand. Look at the trust in that. I've entitled this week's batch of lessons under that statement. My times are in your hand. All of it, every moment, every micro moment, it's all in his hands. He's in control of it because he's the one who created it all. And my times are in your hands. Deliver me from the hand of mine enemies and from them that persecute me. So the hand of God in which my times are is greater than the hand of the enemies who want to destroy me. All the sin and the iniquity, all the temptations, all the wickedness of men, all of that. It's smaller and weaker and less productive and vain. The hand of God is greater, and all my times are in his hands. All right, friends. Well, let's come back tomorrow, and we're going to look at verses 16 and 17 tomorrow here on Daily Dose Radio.